the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is our approval of the minutes from our regular board meeting on December 8th.
I move to approve the December 8th minutes.
I'll second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. On to our approval of our general fund vouchers 82,893 through 82,977, voiding out 82750, and wire transfers 2026-0210 through 2026-0259.
I move to approve the vouchers and wire transfers and the void as read.
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Moving on to procedures for public comment. We have a lot of public, but I'm pretty sure they're not here to comment. Nope. All right, moving on. Spotlight in education. The state honors music participants.
All right. Do you want, you guys can steer, yeah, you guys can steer up there, or you can have one of us do it. It's very informal, so.
Right, hi everyone, I'm Shelby and I'm a senior.
I'm Carly and I'm a freshman. I'm Jocelyn and I'm a freshman.
And we were all participants of the State Honors Music Project this year, and we're here to tell you about our experience and how it all works. So first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the high school honors timeline, because they are a little different depending on what level you are. High school, September through February, you prepare for auditions. You have to have a memorized Class A solo. That is the highest level a high schooler can perform, and they're usually used for solo and ensemble. You also have to practice sight reading, so they hand you a piece of paper. They say you get 30 seconds to look over it and then read the music. And then you also do interval training, where they play you 4 notes on the piano and you have to sing them back, and you do about 4 or 5 of those. Then in February we audition at UW-Eau Claire. There are about 4 different audition sites across the state, and there's a bunch of different judges, and then they compile all those results. And then in June you attend a 3-day camp at UW-Eau Claire, where you learn the music, meet your conductor, meet your section coaches, and so you can all learn it and see it together, and then get to meet everyone from across the state. And then October we reunite, and we have a little convention, and we do our concert. And this year there are about 1,500 students auditioned out of the 580 spots in the 5 different ensembles. So a little bit about down in Madison, we have a conference for the music educators, which our music educators went to, and so it has different fundraising opportunities, different colleges are there, a lot of networking for future educators, and I even got a picture with a future music educator. And then we all took a group picture. This is this year's treble choir. And then this year we had the really cool opportunity of meeting a composer of one of our pieces. This is Kara Stacy Bedwell, and she composed a really cool piece. It was one of our favorites. And so we got to meet her, ask her questions, work on the song with her, and even get our music pieces autographed. So it was a really cool opportunity to meet a composer in person. And then we had our concert, which is hosted at the Overture Center in downtown Madison. It is a beautiful space. It's incredible to be able to perform there. So that's a picture off of the WSMA website. I did not take this picture because that's kind of illegal. But that's our full choir, our alto ones, and then me with our music teachers.
Why is it illegal to take a picture?
Because they broadcast it on PBS. So they don't want you to take pictures of the broadcaster. So now they're going to tell you a little bit about the middle school, the middle level.
So September to March, you prepare either a band or a choir solo, and you get ready for sight reading.
In April, you audition at UW-Eau Claire, and just like the high school level, there's a variety of different sites that you can audition at. Usually from Clear Lake, we go to UW Eau Claire.
And you get the honors music in July and you practice it until the October when the concert is.
And then in October, there's a 2-day rehearsal, and then the second day there's the concert in the evening.
So I was selected to be in the middle level honors orchestra. There were over 130 musicians in the orchestra, and I was selected to be in clarinet, and there was 4 clarinets, and I had the honor of being picked to be first chair.
This is the middle level choir. There were approximately 1,100 auditions. 313 choir members were accepted, and there were only 27 sopranos, which I had the honor of being a part of.
So how is the project beneficial to students like us? It encourages self-discipline and dedication to it. Our high school, all of our 8 songs have to be memorized, and half of them are in foreign language, so you really have to focus and get it done. And then also, like they said, there's months and months and years of training going in before auditions. So to learn the skills of sight reading, interval training, how to read music, getting a Class A solo so that you can perform an audition takes a lot of dedication.
It helps build relationships with other directors and with other musicians who are all around your age and who are very talented.
It also represents the best of our school at a state level, so we have the opportunity of showing how great our Clear Lake music program is.
And then it's just really fun memory making. I have so many friends from all across the state, from all different years of me being in it, and just the people you meet, the conductors you meet. I still have had such an impact from the conductors of these different choirs, and I aspire to be directors just like that. And then most importantly, we want to thank you guys. This opportunity would not be possible without your guys' support, and we truly want to thank you for, one, letting us come here and letting us share it with you, and 2, just always supporting it and being there for us. So. Any questions about the project? Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Great job.
And I was going to say they didn't have to stay, and we already knew that. Good. All right, that moves us on to our board business, the approval of resignations and retirements.
Okay, I have a couple of resignations. Jennifer Winchell, elementary food service part-time. She's been here just for less than just started here this school year. Is moving on to a different opportunity. And then Brenda Osmanrud, who has been our junior, senior, high night custodian for at least 5 years. And she's also just life circumstances and making a decision to step away too. So.
Do I have a motion to approve our resignations and retirements?
I move to approve the 2 retirements, or resignations.
I'll second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. Moving on to our approval of hires, and it looks like there are none.
None there? No.
So then we have consideration and approval of new high school course proposals.
Okay, so I'll kind of let Mr. Melberg take the lead here and go through. We've got 3 different ones, and I know Mr. Crawford's here, and he's got or a couple of the proposals, so he might chime in too. But Mr. Melberg.
You want me to start with the English? And then
Sure.
I'll take the
Yeah.
Science ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
That works.
So the first proposal is going to be an English class that'll be offered to the 11th and 12th graders. It'll be a public speaking course. What we are doing in our English department, and this started last year, and part of it is in place this year, and we're hoping to complete that with this course, is offering our specifically our seniors, but also our juniors would have an opportunity to take these courses as well as an extra English. Basically more variety than what we've done in the past. So in the past we've had, as seniors, they had 2 year-long courses to choose from, either college prep or English communications. In the past, we've also had AP when we had enough interest. AP has kind of been replaced with Writ 101, which is a dual credit course that a couple of kids each year take advantage of. But the idea behind this is that instead of year-long courses that really tie up their schedule in certain areas, they could piece different areas that they like together into 18 weeks. And also it frees up their schedule where they might have an elective that they really want that in the past has been offered at the same time as a year-long English class, which then really ties up their schedule. With this, they could take an 18-week English in 1 hour and the elective they want, and then another 18-week English and another in the elective they want. The other thing it does is our juniors will still be required to take English 11, but they can choose any one of these new English courses 18-week if it fits into their schedule as an elective, which means that going into their senior year, they might have 3.5 of their 4 English credits, or potentially, if it works out, all 4 of their English credits going into their senior year, which just opens them up for more opportunities for some YA, work experience, dual credit opportunities. Just kind of opens up their schedule. So specifically, this is a public speaking class that would last 18 weeks. It'd be available to juniors and seniors. Part of the conversation, I had mentioned to Mr. Crawford and Mrs. Hughes that one of the requests that the board has made a couple of times when we've proposed new classes is how are we going to use AI within these. And Mrs. Hughes and I had a really nice conversation where this kind of lends itself to some helping to guide students with the use of AI, because it's not the writing that we're grading here, it's more of the speaking piece. And so this would be, she would have all kinds of opportunities to work with students to use AI in a way that helps them understand how to use it to learn from rather than use it to cheat from. And also kind of drives home something that we've talked about a lot with AI, and that is the human component. The human puts in the prompt, AI spits something out, human utilizes that, what AI has given them to make it better and fit what they're doing. Fits really well with this course. So not that that's the gist of this, but I know that's been brought up a couple of times when we've introduced courses, so I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that they will be a part of the public speaking course. Questions on the public speaking one? And you have the attachment there, by the way.
Is there a speech component of any of the English classes?
English communication has a little bit of it, and college prep has a little bit of it, but this would be more specific to it. And our thought was it's a really good skill for our kids to have as we prepare them. So that's why Mrs. Hughes and I decided this was a good route for one of our 18 weeks. Going back last year, we approved investigative lit. So Ms. Nelson's teaching that as an 18-week course coming up here in a couple weeks. If there's no questions for that, I'll just turn it over. Mr. Crawford's got 2 social studies electives to propose.
Okay. Yep, both of these classes that I'm going to talk about are electives. They are also a semester in length, only to be offered to juniors and seniors. And these ones will be offered on the off year of AP US History. They're kind of offered on an every other basis, like we do now with our current electives. And the first one I want to talk about is simply called Project-Based History. And I want to focus in this class on more of the how of historical research as opposed to kids learning the what happened. I want to put the ball in their court and give them the wheel, so to speak, to go out and research and then learn driving questions of history, not only learn what happened, but go explore something that they are investigating on their own, create thesis statements, arguments, have to present those arguments to their peers, justify their arguments. And I know you've got the description of this too, but I want them to know and explore the research beyond a simple Google search. There are digital archives, there are primary and secondary source evaluations. The peer evaluation piece and the justification of their argument is something that we do anyway, but this will simply be through the project-based element of it. And I do projects in history class already, but it's certainly not the majority of what we do. It's every other unit, it's every third unit, depending on the course, and this would be an in-depth how do you research course as opposed to just learning about the what happened. And you've got the descriptions. I've also got an AI piece in there too. And the very, very back of your sheet kind of walks you through what I'm looking for. Historical inquiry, touched on that already. Shift from learning history to researching it, creating driving questions of what to research. JSTOR, which is journal storage. It's an online database for say it, peer-reviewed journals that exist online that are not just the first hit that shows up when you Google something. Advanced sourcing, lateral reading online, evaluating your sources and putting them through the ringer as well as to what's quality and what isn't. And then using AI as a research tool, but evaluating it before you just believe what it says. There's a phrase called lateral reading and auditing AI, and I want our kids to get good with that. And we talk about this stuff already, but this will really be an intense version of that for this class. And then lastly, I know I've said it 3 times, but then they have to defend what they found, defend their own research in front of their peers, and do this multiple times over the course of the semester. So that's that one. And then the other one.
Just, Mr. Cover, just so there's no confusion, any questions on that one?
One question, are you going to use debate as part of your defend?
I don't like the word debate because it implies that somebody's wrong, but conversations, yes. I guess it implies that there's a right answer.
There's a winner. Not really a right answer, there's a winner.
Right.
To it.
I shy away from them because of that. In conversations, yes. And different viewpoints are going to come up in any social studies class, but that will definitely be, it varies. They have parameters in what they're researching and, time periods and,
Yep.
But there will definitely be.
There's just kind of a lost art of civil debate.
Yes, it is.
That's why I asked the question, because you look in the AI and everything, but there is still a need for understanding how to civil debate. And so that's why I thought, well, maybe this fits into this class.
I
Not telling you what to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. The other course is a history through pop culture course. And what I mean by that is, I guess, just to define pop culture, it's a human side of history. It's what people are doing when they're not at work and when they're not sleeping. What are they doing for those other 8 hours for fun, for entertainment? It's the food we eat, the languages we speak, it's the games we play, advertisements that we consume, and that's movies we watch, music we listen to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And through pop culture, I want to be able to use pop culture as a primary source to see what about the history is being reflected through the pop culture itself. How did history shape the pop culture of the time period, the social and the political context that they were created in? But I also want to use pop culture as a secondary source to look at how the pop culture gets it right, how it aligns with the time period, or maybe some things that are distorted or what they might ignore, and look at how the time period is portrayed in that pop culture itself. This is also a junior and senior elective course, 18 weeks. It doesn't replace anything. And if you scroll to the very back of your document there, I've kind of got a semester fleshed out about what we're looking to do and the areas that we're going to study. Again, it's more than just the what happened, but it's pop culture forces us to look at how we remember something versus the reality. What is the history and how is it actually portrayed in the show, in the song, in the advertisements that we're looking at as well. And I use pop culture all the time, but I want to use it as the driving element of this semester through those units and through those eras right here. I can certainly read them aloud and discuss each of them if you would like, but starting with the earliest forms of pop culture, what was it? How do you define it? Before, what did Americans do for fun in 1607? Because It existed back then too, all the way through the modern day when we're looking at the pros and cons of having everything at your fingertips 24/7. And it's a lot to do in 18 weeks, but that's what I'm looking for there as well.
Kind of makes you want to go back to school again.
I'm jealous, Mr. Crawford, of all the awesome resources and materials that we now have at our fingertips for kids to explore in history class.
They should be fun, and we'll offer them, and if the interest is there, I would love to run with it.
Yeah.
So what does this replace? How do you just...
Nothing. They're there as electives. On the off years of AP US History, we offer the Medal of Honor course, which is a character education course. We offer the Hamilton musical course. I would love to offer these two, and we'll see where the interest lies and what shakes out. And that's just what I teach. Then Mrs. Rubel's electives are there too, and we'll see where the numbers fall.
We put out, so within the course description book, social studies as an example is probably the best example because you've got more variety probably than any other areas. Is we will ask our incoming juniors and seniors of these electives, which ones do you want us to offer, and so we'll base it off of their choice then.
Sure.
We keep thinking that Hamilton's going to run its course at some point, but we're nowhere near that.
My kids are waiting for it.
We still can't wait to get into it, but at some point that's going to run its course. We think. We've been wrong for a while. And I think part of this is probably Mr. Crawford preparing for that so that we make sure that we have options that our kids want to take.
Well, then, that being said, is there any other debate? I will entertain a motion.
Good choice of
Love
words.
it.
I'll make a motion to approve the new high school course proposals.
Second?
It's been probably moved and second to approve the new high school course proposal. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you, Christy, too. Next item of business is then the approval of determination of space available for open enrollment for 26-27 school year.
Okay, so, and Mrs. Powers might have normally been here tonight. She's not feeling well. She's been very ill for the last week. I think she missed every day last week. So she's she would normally be here for the scorecard and stuff too, but she might have chimed in this one a little bit. So we have the every year it's a requirement for public schools at AJAN, their board meeting. We need to before the open enrollment period opens up in February, needs to lay out our parameters for open enrollment space availability. And so Mrs. Powers and I worked on this back in December. She compiled a bunch of the data. We worked and put it together. So the first document is the resolution that the board would actually pass, and this might look familiar to past years. So this is for 26-27. Application period opens up in February and goes through April. But so by grade level, with consideration for the availability of space in the school's programs, classes, and grades within the district, it's been determined the district does not need to restrict open enrollment applications and will not set space limitations by grade level for non-resident open enrollment. And then the next category here is by special education program or service. Non-resident open enrollment applicants will be denied if the pupil's IEP requires services in special education or related services that are not available within our current district programming. That is standard. That's just a part of the open enrollment program. And then with consideration for the availability of space within the programs, we determined that there were no open seats available for special education students in the grades early childhood through 6th grade for non-resident applications. Non-resident open enrollment applicants needing service through that program would be denied. Again, this is only for open enrollments. Has nothing to do with residents of the district. And then the next point there, it has been determined that there are no open seats for grades 7 and 8, and 7 open seats for grades 9 through 12 available for special education students for non-resident apps. And then it has been determined that there are 10 open seats for students with an IEP which requires services in speech language therapy only, and that is for grades early childhood through 12th grade. the likelihood that we would get 10 students with speech only is infinitesimal. This was determined using a caseload factoring guide projected for 26-27. Projections are based on current students enrolled in the program without any new resident students entering into the program. So that is ultimately the resolution that I would ask the board to pass. The other two documents on there just show how we got to that. The second document is a chart, and so there's a point total, a point factoring system that's used, and then if you look at the third document, that's where the different point values come from. So you can see the different categories of disabilities and the different age levels, and what the levels of support are, potentially could be for the different levels of, or for the different types of disabilities, and what the point factor would be. So we look at the students' IEPs and see what level of support they have. For example, a student with a one-on-one aid, it's a very high level of support, versus regardless of their disability, versus a student who has minimal support in the resource room, is a low point value. So we tally those all together. That's back to that second document, is that chart, and then that is how, and then we use a DPI formula that has a recommendation of point values per caseload for teachers, and that's how we came up with the space availabilities. So,
anybody have any questions? All right, well, I will entertain a motion to approve the determination.
Second. I make a motion to approve the determination for space availability for open enrollment.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the determination. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next year, Chris, you'll have to preface that by saying, I've got all this interest and we're filling up. We're going to have to take a look at every grade level.
Well, I'd love to be able to say that.
All right, the next item of business then is the strategic plan scorecard review. Portions of pillars 1, students, 3, families and community, and pillar 4, operations.
Okay, so this is a mid-year check-in. So if you recall, when we developed the strategic plan and the scorecards, we talked about leading and lagging indicators. So lagging indicators are those things that we look at the end of the year, saying, okay, how do we, we set a goal, a specific goal that's measurable, and then the lagging indicators determine in spring or in June, hey, did we meet our goal, or how did we come in? The leading indicators are points of data that we look at midway through the year to say, are we on track, or do we have some idea if we're heading in the right direction with achieving our goal? Because we don't want to just set a goal in the fall, measure it in the spring, and then pray in between. And hopefully, we want to know if we're on the right track or not, so we can make adjustments. So this check-in is a little bit lighter than, this is not all the academic stuff that we typically look at. So we're looking at specific things within Pillar 1. So it's encourage future goals is all this one. So because next month is when we'll do the heavy academic stuff, because that's when we'll have the data, because they're still taking their screeners here in January, or they're just starting to take them now here. So I think we'll start with the high school scorecard, because you've got the most stuff. So,
sure.
Right.
So I'll begin under encourage future goals. So that's going to be towards the bottom of Pillar 1. And the first goal under there is 95% of in-person students will complete 100% of their grade assigned Zello lessons each year. If you remember, Zello is our college and career readiness platform that we use. So kids in 7th grade, actually they started in 6th grade in the elementary school, but they'll be on this platform from 7th grade through high school. They are researching careers. They're looking at finding their own interests. And finding out things that they need to do that will help promote those whatever avenue that they want to go after high school. So we want to make sure that our kids are completing those goals each year. So our mid-year check right now is our seniors. 31% of them have completed it. Our juniors, you see 0%, but where we do our juniors, they will do that in the second semester. So we knew that number would be at 0% right now. Our sophomores, 42% have completed, freshmen 46%. And same thing with 7th and 8th grade. They do it in each of their, in an exploratory, and they haven't had that. That exploratory is not, doesn't happen until the second semester. So our juniors, 7th and 8th graders, you'll see big jumps in that by the end of the year. And sophomores and freshmen are in a good spot. Our seniors, probably we need to do a little prodding to get them, because we're hitting the halfway point. We don't quite have half of them done, so we want to make sure that we move them along. But for the most part, feel pretty good of where we're at with our Zello. This goal was new to us last year, so we had to get some systems in place, and it took us some time to get some systems in place, but those systems are now, for the most part, working, and we got to fine tune those systems as we go. The academic goal sheets, so we start each year, first week of RAP, we have kids fill out academic goal sheets. Those are 100% complete. And then we also want to make sure that every one of our kids, 7th through 12th grade, has an opportunity, at least one opportunity throughout the year for some sort of college visit or workplace shadowing. And so we are at 44% of our student population has had at least one of those, and we're going to see far more opportunities typically in the second half of the year with those. So we should be right on track there. And then I'm going to have you scroll down to Pillar 3. The only one I have left there is we want to increase our rate of participation by 6% in our school to work and dual credit program among juniors and seniors. The reason we say juniors and seniors is because that's who it's available to. When we initially wrote that goal, it really wasn't a fair goal because our other kids don't have those opportunities, aren't as available as they are to our juniors and seniors. So happy to report that in the fall we had 34% this semester, 34% of our juniors and seniors were participating in some sort of either dual credit or YA program. And then I do have a math error on the mid-year check. It says 31%. I forgot to calculate in the kids that are participating in YA at the mid-year point. So that number is actually 41%. So 41% of our population at this point, or is about to start the next semester with a dual credit or YA program. In parentheses below, I put the total number of college credits that are being taken, just because in the back of my mind I'm wondering if we need to shift this goal to the number of credits taken, and so I wanted to show that on there as well. So you can see that 87 credits in the fall, and we're anticipating 53 college credits being earned by our kids in the second semester as well. So I feel like we're in a good spot there.
Does YA have credits attached to it?
No, so we would have to separate out that goal.
Yeah.
Well, high school credit.
Yeah, high school credit, but not like a...
Right.
Okay. But you're talking about a goal that's specific college credit.
I'm thinking
that's earned.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a big banner to wave.
Right.
One thing we'll have to be aware of is our numbers of kids shrink. That might affect that goal.
Total
if we just do number of credits.
True.
Sorry, don't get us off track.
No.
Anyway, we're always looking we do these goals every time, and we find ways to adjust them. We may maybe make an adjustment there.
Well, part of the point is that we're looking at them.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, the whole idea.
With the elementary scorecard, that's just a few things. Again, where it's a very light check here on, so it's encouraging future goals. There's nothing we're not tracking that. There's no data for fall and mid-year on the Zello, but I'm speaking for Mrs. Van Hooklam.
She'll be back in a couple weeks.
Does the Zello stuff with the 6th graders in her guidance classes.
It's been started, and then she works that into her guidance lessons. We can look at Pillar 3, the engagement. The mid-year check-in, we just have in that column, our fall parent-teacher conference participation. It was 96% of our families made it to a parent-teacher conference, and Mrs. Roble documents how many are on Skyward and get all of their paperwork in, and we're at 76%, and then they spend the rest of the time getting to 100% because we need all of those things checked checked off. So that's kind of an ongoing goal there. So. And then our end of year that we look forward to is the school perception survey done with that communication piece. So that'll happen here in the spring.
Okay. Like I said, Mrs. Powers is not here, so the special ed scorecard has a few items as well. I can just run through those. I told her we could cover that for her. So again, pillar 1 down to encourage future goals. And so she has a whole score sheet that is for this is for just applies to students with IEPs. And this is for the high school students specifically. It's about transition services. But again, so SPED and student services staff will contribute to the creation and maintenance of transition and work experience opportunities in the area and or locally for students with disabilities. 94% of students with disabilities in grades 10 through 12 will participate in 2 or more of the 3 strategies listed. So at this point, a third of the kids already have hit 2 or more strategies. So just kind of that, again, that check-in mid-year. And then pillar 3. So again, this is engagement, and yeah, we look at, look at the surveys on communication at the end of the year. But Mrs. Powers, the school perception surveys, but Mrs. Powers does her survey of just students with disabilities, and she sends it out. She waits till mid-year, so she sent it out in December. So it's a quick turn, so she'll get a lot more of these in. So she's got a very limited amount in, but she still just put together what she's got so far. So as you can see, 82 families, 82 sets of parents, 9 came in so far. So it's a very, very light tip of the iceberg of who's responded. I'm guessing, if I remember last year, if we got maybe 40% response, I think.
Still a high response.
Is pretty good, 30, 40, if I recall. Don't quote me on that, but. And then the high school kids, 15 have been received so far, and I don't have the total, unfortunately. She would know that. So anyway, the first question on the IEP survey, the results, the question, how would you rate communications from the special ed staff? That would be rated 3 or above. So the parents, 66% said a 3 or 4. 22% said a 2, and 11% said a 1. That was 1 respondent. And then the students, 100% of the students said that they would rate communications from special ed staff at a 3 or a 4. So it shows a nice relationship with the students, between the students and the adults that work with them. Question 2, how would you rate your comfort level participating and sharing during IEP meetings? And 100% of the parents rated a 3 or 4, and then 94% of the students rated a 3 or 4, with 1 student or 1 or 2 rating a 2. So some nice data there. Again, it's early, a lot more info to come in yet. So, any questions about that particular one, scorecard? If not, I can jump into the district scorecard, which again, some of it's a little bit redundant on this mid-year check-in. So if we look at the encourage future goals for pillar 1 for the district scorecard, again, we're just looking at that 712 Zello completion percentage. You already saw that from Mr. Melberg. So, I mean, we saw that we've got certain grade levels that are halfway point, they're halfway done like they should be, and others are at 0. So I just averaged, it's not very meaningful data, honestly, to look at that 20% right there. But it's the check-in, and as Mr. French, you said, the point of that we're forcing ourselves to check in and be accountable to look at that. So, pillar 3, similar. So we have parent-teacher conference rate of completion. You saw that from the elementary school at 96%. Again, they're scheduled. That's pretty typical that we get that many. And then at the high school, first quarter conferences, 34% of families participated, which is not a bad number at this level. I think we've seen a little improvement since we started doing the goal setting process in the fall. So,
and scheduled in the spring.
Yes, yeah. And then the rate of fall forms completion, and again, this is just, isn't it interesting the flip-flop there with elementary and high school? So at the high school level, everybody gets their forms in, well, there's a little bit of a carrot and stick there with, if the high school kids don't have their forms and they lose access to their Chromebooks and technology and stuff like that, and they know that they need that in order to do, whereas at the elementary that's not quite the case. So, but it's kind of revealing, I think, for the board to see too that 76%, and that's after quite a bit of efforts at really communicating a lot to parents to fill out their annual forms, and it's just, I think it just illustrates how difficult it is sometimes to get responses.
But you have 96% go to parent-teacher conferences.
Mm-hmm. And actually, that's when a lot of it does get finalized. Mona will hand them out to the teachers to say, make sure they sign this at conferences. So
maybe Mona should be the check-in person.
Oh, she is.
Well, and at the open house day, we have all the technology sitting there, but there's usually many things they need to get to. But that is the day that it could all be done. So we really encourage that. We have a lot of staff encouraging that. So that number, I'm sure, is much higher now.
So, and then with the district scorecard, so we have Pillar 4, which that's just on the District 1. And so Pillar 4 is fund balance leading indicators and facility plan review preview discussion. And so our leading indicators for fund balance, if you were to look at the, what number, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 document, the 24-25 fund balance worksheet from back in July, if you look at that, you might recall when we discussed this at the end of July. We had to do the transfer at the end of July, and we discussed it in August. You can see how we put a pretty significant amount in. We allowed a pretty significant amount to roll into our Fund 10 balance this year with an eye towards tighter budgets going forward, and also just to boost that up. So we boosted our fund balance as a percentage of Fund 10 up to 18%, which was a pretty good, pretty significant jump. It hadn't been that high for a while. And then we also were able to roll $230,000 into Fund 46 and boost that up. And if you recall, we had this unexpected revenue at the end of the year in early mid-June from transportation, because we had purchased those 2 buses. And if you recall, I were caught off guard, and we're like, wait a minute, and we called DPI, and then we talked to our friends at Baird and just said, did we miss something? And they basically kind of reassured us that, like, no, it's an oddity of how it gets calculated. So that was that kind of unexpected boon at the end of the year that allowed us to do that. So this time of year, just, last month, if you recall, we looked at our monthly expenditure report. So that's the next document in the line there, just to see, how our expenditures doing at this point in time compared to last year at this point in time. So there's one more month added on here. Looks very, similar. So, the check-in would just be to say, are we on track to, maintain our budget and not be running a big deficit, not have to dip into our fund balance. And at this point, I don't see, that happening. Just got half the year to go yet. Anything jumping out, or any questions on either of those 2 document, the one from last summer and then the expenditure report? Again, we just looked at it in December more closely, so not really much change there. If there aren't any questions, I can move on to Fund 46 check-in. I don't really have a lot here, but it's on our strategic planning calendar, so let's look at it. So just our Fund 46 capital resources, or capital projects plan, I should say. So this is, again, we've been able, at the end of July, you can put surplus unspent dollars into that, build it up, and then use it for facilities and capital improvements. And so we've got our list of sort of identified kind of bigger projects that we know are looming down the road. And then we also made that update last summer to kind of be able to be more flexible with the unexpected upgrades that come up with, plumbing or electrical or HVAC. And that has been helpful this year. That has been, and I think we've spent $42,000 out of Fund 46 on kind of smaller maintenance. It's the nickel and dime. I kind of say here and there, like, we got to get a plumbing repair here, or a hot water heater went out here, or we need a part for an air handler or something like that. That stuff adds up. So
I've had a lot of people come up to me and say they really appreciate the new hand railings, by the way.
Yeah.
In the
I know.
plumbing as well.
It's and like last spring, those, I want to say it's a little thing, but it's a big thing. Like that was a smaller expenditure compared to fixing the air handler or whatever. But it's those public-facing things, or the signage too. We've gotten compliments on the signage too. Again, that was a relatively smaller expenditure, but things that are visible to the public. So, let's see. Then there's a let's see, next step here. And of course, we had in 2023-24, we had Cross Anderson do the full facility study, so that is encompassed there. And then there's a link where it says here in 4 bolded letters, or else it's the next document on the agenda, the facility maintenance plan, January 2026. And this is again a document that we looked at a year ago about this time. And one thing, I added one item on there, and it is the second one down. It's elementary HVAC, but a different aspect of it. But controller issues, and this kind of will segue into the next item on the agenda. But we've had ongoing issues with system controls since before I've been superintendent. And it's something that Tom Osmond-Rue has been working with different vendors to try to address. Poor Mrs. Anderson there's had some chilly days in the fall in her office with the things not being tuned in quite right. So that's a project that I'd like to talk about a little bit after all this time, kind of rounding in on a solution for that potentially here. So, but I could see with some more conversation or review by the board and looking at proposals that we're collecting, potentially doing a project this summer or phasing it over a couple of summers. And that would allow us to integrate the controls for both buildings into one location. So for example, when Tom Osmond-Rue is in his office here at the high school, he'd be able to check in on room temperatures and statuses from there in both buildings, which he currently can't do. And then also the possibility of hiring a third party to commission our systems, to come in and, the vendor comes in, does the work and says, abracadabra, it's done, here you go. But to have a third party come in and say, we're going to test everything, we're going to evaluate and make sure it's doing what they said it was going to be doing when they're done. So that's a possibility I'd like to look into and explore too. So.
Are we working with a company that is supposed to be filling that need for us, Chris?
Well, we've got a couple different partners that have been helping us with when things break down and stuff. Right. We've worked with Train quite a bit. We've worked with Bartengale quite a bit. Bartengale comes out and does preventative stuff, like they check our boilers, the annual maintenance inspection of the boilers. They do. They're checking that the physical parts are working, and I will say, they've been really helpful to us. We had some issues the last few weeks, and they've been really responsive and really helpful. But I think when we install controllers, to have someone besides the vendor look it over and say, "Yep, this is working the way it should." So, and it's set at peak efficiency and things like that. So that's just kind of a little bit of a more conversational preview of things that I guess we're looking into and thinking about this time of year for upcoming projects. Otherwise, that is I think, everything from the district scorecard, Pillar 4. Unless there's other questions.
All right, any other questions? All right, then we'll move on to the next item of business, which is facilities and safety updates.
And again, kind of just segueing right into from the current conversation, but I've kind of not much. I've kind of talked about this already, but ongoing issues and a potential solution for getting the temperature controls for the HVAC at the elementary working the way they should be, automated the way they should be. And so we've talked about that. And then another thing that I would like to just begin a discussion about, no action or anything like that right now, but just I've become aware of some tools, technology tools or apps, so to speak, that are becoming more effective and are getting pretty good where it's an emergency incident response. So in a nutshell, kind of the way it would work is if we were to adopt this, we would have technology on our desktops of our computers. If an employee was willing to put an app on their phone, they could. They don't have to if they don't want to. It'd be on their desktop, or they can have an iPad in their room, which they have right now for hall passes. But anyway, if there's an incident, and it could be a range of incidents. It could be something as simple as a hold for maybe there's a medical issue in the hallway. You can put a hold and an alert goes out to people. Everybody in the building would get the alert and know, that what's going on. To the most, extreme situation, whether it's severe weather or whether it would be a threat in the building or something like that. Or maybe it's a teacher who is saying, I need some assistance in my room. They could also make use of this. But then, and you can do the different levels of how the response goes out, or you can have approvals that would go out then through admin. But it would put out an alert, and then everyone in the building with those tools in front of them would see what the alert is, what the emergency is, or what their issue is. And then what's pretty neat about it is it would prompt all the users in the emergency cases to basically do a green or a red light, like everything's fine in my room, or nope, everything's not fine in my room. I've got a student who's passed out, or I've got a safety issue going on in my room. And then that's in real time pops up for admin team to see, law enforcement to see. So let's say it's the worst case scenario and you've got violence in your building. It goes out and you see, it's down in the wing by the, junior high, so to speak, or by the band room or something like that. We could all see that. Everybody in the building could see it, and so could responding authorities could see it too. And then you can change the update as the status can change. If the threat comes near your area, if you were able to, you could change that. So it was pretty eye-opening, I think, to see that. And also I was kind of surprised by the cost effectiveness of it. It wasn't that expensive.
Student check-in too.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So the teacher, it'll prompt them to, it connects to your student information system. So then you can, do a real-time check-in on, yep, all my students are green here. They're all here. They're all accounted for. And so that would be in real time too to everybody that has access to it. So just kind of beginning a discussion about that. I'd like to bring back some proposals for the board to consider on that potentially. So.
Okay, good stuff. Well, thanks, Chris. Next item of business then is discussion of weighted grading policies for high school courses.
Okay. And so currently at our high school we have weighted grades for advanced placement classes and not anything else. And this was brought forward by a board member to just discuss this, ask the question about considering weighted grades for other types of courses like dual credit courses, college level courses, technical college courses, things like that. So I guess that was what was brought forward. So we'll open it up to the board to discuss.
Go ahead, Christy.
Yeah, it's one of those things where advanced placement, you actually don't get college credit until after you take the high stakes exam. And for those who are instructors, exams are not always the best assessment of student learning sometimes. So I'm going to use Mr. Crawford as an example. If Mr. Crawford was a dual credit instructor for history, it could be the same class as his advanced placement, but his dual credit course would be on a 4.0 scale. But if he taught the same at advanced placement, it's on a 5.0 scale. You have all the same variables, pretty much the same curriculum outcomes, but because we acknowledge this assessment as a higher level of rigor, we put that on a 5.0 scale, but we don't put the college level, which is under either the Higher Learning Commission or the Wisconsin Technical College System, which has more guidelines around their curriculum than probably the advanced placement. You look at the technical colleges around us, they have to go through the Higher Learning Commission, plus the WTCS, plus accreditation for anything that's health or I think of like our welding, our truck driving, everything like that also has an outside accreditor. So you think of that, the standardization and the scrutiny on that curriculum is potentially 3 times higher than what you have for advanced placement. So also, we're asking more and more students to step up and take these college classes. We want to give them those opportunities. That's a high stakes opportunity when you're looking at how is this going to affect my GPA, and more universities are offering scholarships based on your GPA. So we've got some conflicting things happening out there that's making it pretty big risk for some of our students to step up and take these opportunities. And really the best opportunity to be college ready is to take a college course in an institution like our high school where you have the best supports. Let's face it, you have the guidance counselor, you've got the principal, you've got your RAP, you've got the best supports. That's the easiest step into that environment. And we're not acknowledging that for the credit and the rigor that it probably is. So I just wanted to consider the student impact. I also looked at it from, if you had a bad freshman year, it's really hard to recover your GPA. If we said, let's put this on a higher scale, you got your act together by your sophomore year, you decided to buckle down, and I'm going to take a couple college classes to try to bolster my GPA, I think we need to look at it from a GPA recovery as well.
So, your point about the AP class, the incentive, I think the grade weight is there as an incentive to take it, because there's a significant advantage to the dual credit class where all you have to do is pass the course. Where with the AP class, it's the rigor and pass rate about 50% still. I mean, 50% chance that you're not going to get college credit for it. So, okay, how do we get kids to say, I still want to sign up for that? Because we have a lot of kids, if we're talking AP US history, that still want to sign up for it. I think there's a number of reasons that they do, but they would be nervous signing up for it if it wasn't grade weighted. What concerns me with the dual credit grade weighted is there's such a variety of college classes that our kids can take that we don't know what has the similar rigor to an AP class and what doesn't. And my other concern there then is if we say we're going to grade weight all of our dual credit classes, there's an incentive for kids not to take our high-level electives here. The classes that Nick just presented, our pre-cal class, our nat and phys class, chemistry class, because those are going to be on a 4-point scale, and they can say, well, why would I take these electives when I can just take a bunch of college classes on a 5-point scale?
But don't we also have in our early college credit that you can't take that class until you've taken our class? Like, you can't take a college anatomy and phys if you didn't take our class first.
But they may not need anatomy and phys. They might not need it. They might just say, I'm going to take a different science course.
I feel like you already have students who are not taking anatomy and phys here.
Sure.
Because the rigor of that class is probably college level.
Right.
Already.
But our and not only our high level science or our social studies electives, but also now our business classes or all of our CTE department, there'd be a disadvantage for a kid who wants to play the GPA game, they would not sign up for our ag classes or our shop classes because they'd sign up for some sort of dual credit course now to get that 5.0 scale. That would be one of my biggest concerns.
Well, how many dual credit, like, I don't know of any instructors besides Mrs. Johnson that's truly approved for true dual credit.
Correct.
So there's a reason for that.
Yeah. And
It's very difficult.
It is very difficult, and that's why I'm like, the standard is you have to have the credentials of a college level instructor.
Depends on the
Okay, the rule is you're supposed to.
It depends on the institution, and that's where that's where it gets a little nerve-wracking for me. Is where do you draw the line then? Because you're talking about graduating a class at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and you're talking about graduating a class at Barron County, not that.
But those are even UW, so they all go through the same accredited, like everyone goes through the same Higher Learning Commission. It's the same credentialing standards, just like the WTCS. For some of this, you have to assume good intent. And we all know that the instructor plays a huge part in rigor, which means we could pull any institution and any class and end up with variations all over the map on that. Whether it's a high school level, college level, master's level, the instructor really does matter in rigor.
Yeah, that would be my concern. Would be how it would impact the meaning of a grade point average over time. Because like you say, if the criteria is simply that it's offered by an institute of higher education, like we said, there's a lot of variability in the different courses within those institutions. So I'd be concerned about, if we're gonna give a 5 instead of a 4 for all those courses, I'd be concerned about what the meaningfulness of our GPA would become over time. It's like you said, the GPA is a cruel, harsh reality. It's 9 through 12, but it's also, that's the equalizer. It's a consistent measure.
It is, but you can play the GPA game the opposite way and take easy classes all the way through high school. And there's so many ways you can play that if we look at it from all those different angles. I don't think there's a perfect process for it, and there's going to be someone who's going to find a loophole in whatever you decide to do.
Yeah.
Also,
I'd be concerned that it would disincentivize kids to take rigorous classes in our, chemistry or physics or pre-calc, let's say, versus taking a less rigorous class from one of the technical colleges that is valuable to them, but is not as rigorous, and they're going to get a 5.4 instead of a 4.4 in it.
To your point earlier about the kid that's going to put themselves out there and take a college level class, which potentially might hurt their GPA. The trade-off they're getting is they're getting free college credit by passing that class. So I think it's worth the risk, and our kids are taking that risk. Those that are towards the top and fighting for that val-sal. The other issue is we pay for up to 18 credits, and we've had a number of kids in the last couple of years who have maxed out the credits that we pay for, and the families have come to us and said, well, we'd like to take these and we'll pay for them. Okay, absolutely. Well, now if we grade weighted this, now that gives a distinct advantage to a family that can pay for it over a family who maybe can't pay for it. So that worries me too.
No, that is a good point. So how do you, if you did it, how do you sculpt it so it's part of the early college credit? Because those students go through an evaluation process between yourself and the guidance counselor before they ever come to us.
We've got we've got guidelines in place and what we will approve and not approve.
Would that scale be able to be approved through the approval process? When we do approve these classes, can we approve the weight of that class at the same time?
That could end up being an administrative nightmare. Is what I first think. It's like,
yeah.
Because now I might
let you guys do it.
I absolutely understand where you're coming from, and I've had people approach me over it too, and yeah, there are kids sticking their necks out there, and it is unfortunate in some situations that yeah, but it, yeah, I'd really like to stick up for them in that sense, but.
Mr. Melberg, is there a way for these kids, give me an example of a way these kids would know what the rigor is before they took the class?
History.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
From other students.
Upperclassmen. Oh, I took this one as a breeze. Yep, I want that one.
Kind of like when we went to college.
I mean,
You asked which
Well, I guess
professor.
that is true, yeah.
Like you said, which professor.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And I don't want to take anything away from, like, we've sent kids to the Welding Academy in
Yeah.
Richmond, which has been fantastic. But that would be a huge advantage. Those kids go there and take all of those courses that are all grade weighted over taking courses here.
But I also look
They
like
could
every
pass.
student's got a different intelligence, so like, there's
I agree.
a student that's gonna excel in AP history that could flunk the welding
I
academy.
agree.
I mean, that,
Those kids in the Welding Academy might go flying past our kids that are taking pre-calc and calc and phys and nat and phys, and that concerns me too. You are right that there's likely going to be games played with GPA either way, but to me this just feels like it opens up a lot of potential games that hurts this building.
from an enrollment standpoint,
Just, I mean, if all of a sudden you get, and we could go a few years where nobody did it, and all of a sudden you get a class that gets super competitive over GPA, and we don't have anyone that wants to take, they're going to take our whatever is required here, and then they're going to take college classes for everything else. And now I don't have anyone in any of our electives. That would be very concerning from a staffing standpoint.
Or, yeah, my concern would just be, again, it's not knocking any course, but, you know, if I'm taking a CNA course, you know, the level of rigor of that versus, you know, like say pre-algebra, or I'm sorry, pre-calculus, or you know, a high-level English or science class or whatever, that would concern me, I guess, with what that would make out of our GPA over
I
time.
feel like we're waiting, you know, education over trades, you know, and I don't think that's fair either. I think there's plenty of trades out there that.
We are an educational institution.
Yeah.
We are still a school.
So is there some type of a mechanism that can be placed in there where after going through a number of the classes that we offered, then after that, and they took some of these classes, they would then be eligible for a grade-weighted college?
you could grade weight by associate's degree and bachelor's degree, because if you get into like the welding academy, the CNA course, those are all considered like technical diplomas. So they have totally different numbers. They're really at a different level. So you could potentially do it by associates and bachelor's level, because that gets you to more equivalent courses with more equivalent rigor to what the traditional academic setting is used to. I get what you're saying about the trades too, because that just seems like a discrimination piece from my standpoint, but that's everyone's personal opinion.
Do you think we have kids not taking college classes because they're not grade weighted? I've never had a kid say that, but maybe I'm missing it.
I think hearing the scuttle after, like sophomore year, I think is when they kind of find out their rank and when they figure out that it wasn't maybe worth it. And this, you have to remember, like my frame point of students are those that started high-level math in 8th grade and still have to they took high school math in 8th grade but got no high school credit for it. So then you're ahead, and now you're lower in the rank than those that didn't, and then you took a college class because the other thing is all grading scales are different. So like at Northwood, you have to have a 93% to get an A-. That means that's very different than your high school grading scale too. And so those grades come over. So then there's that thought and talk amongst, like, is this really worth it? Is this, and not every student has a home, and we've talked about this, not every student has the home support
Correct.
network that's going to help them through this process. So the things that and policies that we can do in this building that help these students and get them those couple steps in, it makes a big difference for their future. So maybe it's not, I mean, it might be worth a poll to some of those students who are taking some of the early college credit. Do you regret doing this because of your GPA? Did you think about not doing it? If the students say it doesn't bother them, I can back off of this really easy. I'm just looking at, like, what is the best way for some of our students to be very successful later in life?
And I'd have to go back and look at our last few val cells, but the ones that are coming to mind all took advantage of early college credit, start college now, which tells me that they weren't afraid of it.
Yeah.
They were still val and cell. But also keep in mind, at the end of their sophomore year, they haven't taken a college class yet. But this,
That's why I say my reference point is that group that was still in that old math program.
Yep, yeah, old math, because we're not doing that anymore either.
Yeah.
But yes, I get that.
So there's that.
They end up in some very difficult math classes.
Yes.
And
actually end up taking more high school math than really what the high school requirements are, because you started early.
Yep.
And by the time you get in the really hard ones, that's when you realize you didn't like math.
Correct.
Just because you're good at it.
Yep, and we absolutely, that factored into the decision.
Yeah.
Go to the new system that we.
And that's why I had to give it some preface too, with that. So. Good discussion. Maybe a little bit of debate.
Nice. All right,
See,
well,
civil debate can happen, Greg.
yeah, I like it.
Well, the mic's on.
I wait until afterwards in the parking lot.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, thank you for bringing that to the board for discussion, Christy. If you guys discuss it more and you think we need to bring it back again, by all means, mention it to Chris and I, and we'll continue the conversation. So, all right. Next item of business then is review of the 24-25 financial audit.
Everyone's favorite topic. No. So we've got two audit books in front of you. The white one is the financial statements. And so again, we work with Baker Tilly for our audit. Oh, yeah, right here. Sorry, the spiral bound ones. And as the notes that I put into the board document.
Do I need to sign anything?
Oh, yeah. The noted material weaknesses are related to our size and our segregation of duties, or our lack thereof. And we've discussed this each year. We discussed it with our auditors and with Joan Betts, who is takes the lead on us with us. And I know last year the board had asked us to take a deeper dive into that and meet with them to just explore more and get some facts about how many other districts deal with this, and pretty much everyone, basically actually everyone, and looked at the costs to try to remove those deficiencies. So again, it's a question of investing $30,000 or $40,000 a year to eliminate that deficiency, or keep that deficient, I should say that material weakness that's there, not finding irregularities or things wrong, but simply just it's noted that there's we've got a small staff size, so we can't segregate the duties the way ideally you would with the top standards. The white page, or the white covered one, page 50, I just want to point out a few things on page 50 of that one. Just noting in the second little line there, district complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements. Flip to the back on page 54. And this is honestly, we can kind of skip it here because it says the same things in the other book, but just, again, that's where you'll find the statements about the condition, there's a lack of control over certain processes due to our size. And, so we have, Baker Tilly actually prepares our year-end financial reports, and the segregation of duties is mentioned there. And it also talks about some of the things we do have in place to mitigate that. such as some of the reviews done by the superintendent, by me, and then also that we have our board members review the vouchers each time, and that we have expertise on our board to look at accounting practices. The blue book, or the blue covered book, or kind of the teal colored, that one, again, kind of, a lot of it is describing the processes that they use, but if you cut to the chase, page 6 is where it discusses the internal control matters. Again, I'm just highlighting the parts that are considered, that are set out as, the weaknesses. The rest of it was a very excellent, or, it was a very excellent audit. And if you go to page 8 and 9, it'll highlight how, there were no significant transactions outside the normal course of business. We encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management and completing our audits. Let's see, no disagreements with management, no departures from the auditor's standard report. We encountered no difficult or contentious matters for which we consulted outside of the engagement team. Management has determined that the effects of any uncorrected statements are immaterial, both individually and in the aggregate. Meaning, they might find a correction of like, oh, this transaction or transfer should be dated prior to the July 1st date or something like that. They go back and make a correction. The statement on page 9, we encountered no other audit findings or issues that require communication at this time. So we had a follow-up meeting on Zoom with Joan Betts, who oversees the audit, and she just noted that our audit was, we asked her, well, how does this compare, as far as what you found this year? And she said it was even cleaner than it usually is. So I want to thank Eve, particularly for all of her work throughout the year. That doesn't happen just in July. That happens the other 11 months of the year is why we get that. And also Joy Nordby as well in the business office. Deserve a huge amount of credit for those day-to-day interactions with our books that make it come out that way. So does the board have any other questions? And Baker Tilly would, if you did have in-depth questions, they'd be happy to come and join or Zoom into a meeting or come to a meeting if we needed them to.
I don't remember, does this happen every year no matter what?
Yeah,
Okay.
by law, yeah, required.
I couldn't remember if it was just for ESSER that it was being done and...
So, good question. So we had, because of ESSER, we had also the single audit, which is a federal audit fund.
Okay, so that was different.
Yeah, if we hit a certain threshold of dollars, which we won't anymore now, thankfully, so then we'd get another single audit and it was correlated to this. We'd get that in October. And then we also get audits for membership, too, membership audits. They do our people counts, they go through that.
Right.
So, not every year. You get kind of drawn for that every couple of years, but we've gotten it the last 2 years.
Okay.
So, good question.
Any other questions on the audit? All right, next item of business is the drawing of the ballot order for school board election candidates.
So we've got 2 incumbents up for election, Greg Frenchu and Corey Munson. They're both running. We did not have any other candidates register, so we'll have the 2 incumbents running for the 2 spots. And we do need to draw names out of a hat. I actually did remember to this time.
I think they should do paper rocks.
Yeah.
Down.
Can I just nominate my elders because I respect them?
Who wants to? Who would like to? So we'll draw. I got the 2 names in here on a piece of paper. Who would like to draw it out? And Christy's right here.
Actually, we're actually drawing for who's not on first on the ballot.
No, this is first.
Greg's first.
Greg's first. Corey's
Elders.
second. Okay. You got that, Miss Mansky? All right.
Well, obviously it wasn't looks before age, I guess. So.
It was a random pull from a hat, Greg. It's not like you won the lottery.
Yeah. All right, next item of business then is board policy updates and approval. First readings. Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so usually we got bigger batches. These are just a couple of smaller random ones. So the first one here is a short, simple one. It's termination and resignation. And if you click on that one, it's, like I say, a very short policy. One of the things that was looked at was that first line there, employment may be terminated by, and then and you have two choices, upon a majority vote of the board or by the district administrator. And looking at our employment handbook, our board is the appeal process for a termination. So therefore, it makes sense that it needs to be that the district administrator may terminate. Now, that doesn't take away the board's ability to vote and do that in any way, but that's the reason for that there. If as a board member, if you're looking at that, wondering why it wouldn't be the other way. So, and then support staff employees subject to termination, and the question is may be given an opportunity to resign. The other option is shall. But I would say we would not want that because there may be situations where we do not want to offer the person the opportunity to resign if there's been some major malfeasance.
Is this only for support staff?
This is specifically for support staff, yeah. There's a whole separate, policy and procedure for professional staff, for teaching staff and admin. And the district administrator may act for the board in the acceptance of a resignation. So again, that's a case where, we may, especially in today's hiring climate, we want to be able to accept it and get it posted right away and not have to wait 3 months. If we get a resignation tomorrow, and not have to wait a whole month to post a job. So,
what happens if we don't accept the resignation?
Yeah, I've always wondered that too. Yeah, nope, you just can't.
I guess we just have to say yes.
Yeah.
I tried once to not accept a resignation.
So, any questions on that one?
Nope.
It's a first reading. Second policy here is the wellness policy. So this one is a little different story. This is the opposite of simple. So you see it's 8 pages long. Once the choices are made and it gets edited down, it'll probably be down to more like 4 or 5. But I will tell you this, it started out as 14 pages long. So we need to have this policy updated. Our wellness policy is way out of date and has not been updated for a long time. And so, and it's important that we have this just to have it for legal reasons. And also, we do have a food service audit coming up later this spring, too. So it'll be important that we have this in place.
This is really food service and FIAD.
Food service, FIAD, nutrition education, staff wellness, too. So, for this one, I got together a group of people, a group of stakeholders, and got their input on a bunch of it. So Ed, who is our Neola representative, kind of goes through a first blush, and so I went through the 14-page and kind of whittled it down, eliminated things that are like, okay, this doesn't fit Clear Lake at all, there's no way we would do this, or things that are just not going to fit in our district. Narrowed it down, but then brought it to that committee. Mrs. Anderson was one of the people on the committee. But, health and FIAD teacher, family consumer science teacher,
Who's your local business representative?
You don't have to have a local business representative on there. So that's one of the options, though. That's one of the options. So anyway, I can just kind of dive into it and go through, if that's all right. So the policy preamble is what it is. You can't change that. The wellness policy leadership. We chose that that the district administrator, capital D, capital A means the district administrator means or designate, doesn't mean the district administrator personally. And we made the choice, which I think is more flexible, which would be to have a diverse group of collaborators versus a capital C committee that would govern this. Instead, it's more a process run by the admin, but then using stakeholders. So it says stakeholders may include, and you can see the list of, we selected all the options there. So on our team, we had 7 people, I think, 7 or 8 people. Not all those groups were represented, but most were. So, and the first part does talk about school meal programs. And so, Ed had gone through with me, and it's got to match up with what our other food service policies are, too. So, and we talked about with the committee as we went through it, like we do with our Neola policies always is look at what are our current practices, and then generally make the selections that reflect what we currently do, unless we need to make a change or something's dictating we have to. So obviously Tara Petter was a big impact on this section of it, and we also said some of the selections on there we already do it and we could select it, but by selecting it now it becomes a will or a shall, it's a requirement versus it's good practice and we generally do it, but we also said let's take the philosophy of making a policy that's simpler rather than more complex. That makes it easier to follow. So you can see for the school meal programs, drinking water available for students during meal times, all schools participate in. And Tara said, there's no way we would ever not participate in those ones that we chose there. And now, if you ask me, I would not be able to tell you what NSLP, SVP, and SFSP stands for. So please don't ask me because I'll have to bring it back to you next week. Menus will be posted on the district website. Slashed out the second part about will include nutrition content. She's working towards that, but if it's a will, now again you can be out of compliance with your own policy if you miss it one time or don't have it. We do notify parents of the availability of the summer food programs, and there's no way we'll never stop doing that. So that's letter A. We selected that. Letter B, allows students the opportunity to provide input on the menu. We have had student groups that come in and do surveys and stuff like that, but it's a shall, meaning if we don't do it ever, now we're out of compliance, so we didn't want to select things like that. Same thing with letter C. The next section there, standards for food and beverage sold outside of school meals. We chose letter A because that's the minimum requirement that you have to do. And again, this is sale of food during the school day, but that's not part of the food service program, I believe, if I'm remembering this right. So we kept that simple. The next part, foods offered or provided but not sold. This refers to like classrooms, food in classrooms. And the statute allows celebrations that involve food to be limited to 1 per month. We don't do that many, but that's what the statute allows. So we thought, well, let's just put in the most, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for?
So the elementary school can only have 9 parties in their classroom.
Yeah. I think they probably have 3 throughout the year, I think. Sure.
Well,
Depends on which student is talking.
Yeah.
And your definition of party.
Yeah. The line right below it is pretty much redundant as far as allowing the number of celebrations per classroom. Fundraising, we chose A has to be selected, and then again, it's referring to, as I believe, during the school day. District adheres to the department or the DPI fundraiser exemption policy, allows up to 2 exempt fundraisers per student organization per school year. So
the school groups, if they're doing a fundraiser, they have to follow these same food and
they're supposed to follow the Smart Snacks rule.
But goes the buy a can of pop.
But each group gets 2 exemptions a year. So
okay.
Yeah.
FFA better stick with fruit then.
Because there's definitely we do go outside of that for sure. So it does allow you to do it twice a year. Each organization can do it twice a year. Marketing, and again, Tara talked about that. We don't do a ton of. We don't do a ton. We don't really do any food marketing in the building. It's just what happens in the cafeteria, and that's very minimal to nothing. So, but we have to pick letter A there. We have to pick one selection, and we are compliant with all that. Nutrition education, again, Mrs. Hunter and Mr. Amundson input on this, and again, just tried to keep it simple about what our goals are for teaching kids good lifelong healthy eating behaviors, standards-based health instruction, nutrition promotion, again, providing a school environment that encourages students to practice healthy eating and physical activity. Again, kind of took the most simple generic statement there. Physical activity. District will provide students with age and grade appropriate opportunities to engage in physical activity. We left in the section about outdoor recess. We said we can never imagine a time where outdoor recess wouldn't be allowed, and we want to make sure that we put it in policy that we're always going to have outdoor recess for kids at the elementary school. Letter H, we picked schools shall provide physical activity opportunities before and after school. Examples include physical activity classes or clubs, physical activity and aftercare, and interscholastic sports. Again, can't envision a future where we would not have those things. And same thing with the letter K, is just 7 through 12 students have the opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities that emphasize physical activity if they want to. Phi Ed, a lot of like kind of A through G kind of said the same thing in different kinds of ways. With Mr. Amundsen's input, settled on, and the whole group settled on letter G. A lot of the things up above would still apply and be true, but we didn't really want to put it in the policy and have it be tied in or open ourselves to potentially not following the policy. J, K, and L, just the approach of physical education, we thought it was important that PE shall teach cooperation, fair play, responsible participation. Participation in PE shall meet the needs of all students, including those who are not athletically gifted. PE shall be presented in an environment free of embarrassment, humiliation, shaming, taunting, bullying, or harassment of any kind. I thought it was important to leave those things in there. Other activities to promote wellness, just pick the simple one, letter C. Schools shall support students, staff, and parents' efforts to maintain a healthy lifestyle. The next section on staff wellness. District may implement the following activities to promote healthy eating. We picked B because we always offer flu shots in school for students and staff. Again, they're optional, doesn't mean they have to do them, but we always offer it. Letter D. We added that in there because I felt that was good to put down that, we do offer our staff the opportunity to use the PE and fitness equipment during non-work hours or when they're not being used by kids. We want our kids or our staff to be able to go in and use the weight room or use the gym, or a group of adults wants to pick up basketball or pick up volleyball before school or after school. We want to promote that, allow it. The next section is about community engagement. Community partners, we added in county health department or local healthcare providers, which we do. Inform and invite parents to participate in activities throughout the year. Very vague statement. We thought, why wouldn't we pick that? Additional strategies to consider. Schools shall schedule meal times. There's a minimum disruption to bus schedules, recess, other special programs. We always do that. Like the last day of school or early release, we always adjust things around to make sure we're not interfering with lunch schedule and recess. And schools use electronic identification and payment systems, therefore eliminating any stigma or identification of students eligible for free or reduced meals. So kids just punch in their number and the program does the rest. So nobody knows, including the person at the point of sale, nobody knows if the child has free or reduced price meals. And then we had to select the next part which says furthermore. We had to select A and B. So we did. And the last part, monitoring and evaluation. So every 3 years we are required to review this policy. There's a little scorecard that you use to do it, and you just rate and you check yourself on how you're doing and following your policy. We selected the second one. Certainly we're going to update this as needed based on evaluation results or if there are emergence of new information or laws. And then the last part, we are required also to select something where we state that we will actively inform families about the content of this policy. So specifically to the wellness policy, we have to include that in our annual notices. So we said the way we would do it would be on our district website and our annual family notification, that blue packet or whatever color it is that goes out in August every year. So, and then we have to do record retention, so we're going to keep, of course, we'll have a copy of the current policy on file and documentation of our efforts to publicize it. And then we're not required to, but we would. I mean, we didn't select it there, but certainly our efforts to update the policy in our scorecard, we can save those as well. So, sorry, that's a lot of me talking, and I'm trying to go fast, but not too fast. So I hope you don't feel like I was skimming over anything, but I also don't want to belabor it. I don't know if there's any questions or comments or suggestions.
No.
This is a good one.
Can we just approve it without doing a second reading?
I promise
Not a
not
second
to.
out loud
I promise
reading.
not to go over it again, Matt, if you don't want me to. Yes. So, all right.
All right, that concludes our first reading. On to superintendent notes.
Okay. So just quick update on things. Let's see. I mean, we've had. Back to before holiday break, we had, after our last meeting, we had really very successful holiday music concerts at all the levels, elementary, middle school, high school. Those are always a pleasure to be at and see. We had a very nice participation in our staff holiday party before break. Just kind of looking at the last month and like what have we been focused on. I know we've been continuing to work on our implementation and refining with Aptigee. Continuing to work on alerts and updating lists and finding little quirks and things that, reading between Skyward and Aptigee to make sure that our lists are working. Trying to continue to increase our social media use. I think the Aptigee has made it easier to do that. And I appreciate all of our people who contribute, and we've got some members of our admin team do some, but also we've got really Jennifer Mickelson at the elementary, and now Megan Wallen at the high school is really taking on kind of a lead in putting some, kind of being the frontline people on getting stuff done there. But yeah, winter sports are rolling along in the thick of their seasons. Pleased to say that we've got drama clubs starting up again. They're going to be, we haven't had it since pre-COVID, I don't think. So March play, tryouts here in late January, so that's very exciting. We've got Science Olympiad heading into the first competition. Again, that's another program that we've kind of gotten going again here in the last year or two. Forensics, VAC, Solo Ensemble will be starting up here for the spring. Always active, of course. Our FFA is always doing stuff. FCCLA is always doing stuff. And then a couple things outside of the school building, but just to take note of interest. So there's a new librarian at the public library. Cricket LaFond has retired after several years there, and Shauna Peterson is the new librarian, one of our former staff members here. So we've had a strong relationship with the public library over the years. I can imagine it'll be only stronger with having one of our former teachers there. So it's exciting to hear. And just on a personal note, too, I've been on the Amory Hospital Board for 9 years, and my time in there has come to an end, too. My term is over. So connections with the community and so on. But we've had a lot of weather watch days already this year. Not a lot, but we've had definitely some. Had a couple cancellations already. We've talked about next steps with if we have any more. I say if, because hopefully we don't have any more.
It's going to be when.
Yeah, it's going to be if.
Adventures coming.
And just looking ahead, we've got in-service coming next Monday, the 19th. We'll be having someone come in to work with our staff about artificial intelligence stuff, and someone coming in to talk about financial retirement planning for our staff. So it's been a while since we've had someone come in and do that, offer that. Got a pupil count report coming up later this week from the second Friday here in January. We'll have our insurance renewal. We've been working on that. I'll bring that to the February meeting for liability and property. And then 3 of you are going to the WASB convention in Milwaukee next week. I'll be going too. We've got JK screening, junior kindergarten screening coming up early February, 5th and 6th. So all that, looking ahead, always next thing on the horizon here. So lots going on. Good stuff.
All right, that brings us to our contemplated closed session. So, thank you. Pursuant with Wisconsin statutes 19.851C and 19.851E, the board will discuss the district administrator's evaluation and consider proposals for competitive bidding. I will poll the board. Nettie?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
I don't know why your name always escapes me. Myself, Matt.
Yes.
All right, we are in closed session. All right, we are back in open session. Next item is future agenda items. Anybody have any future? Okay, it's easy. Then we move to adjourn.
I'll make a move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right, we're adjourned.